He walked into the classroom wearing his uniform. I remember that moment like it was yesterday. The proud, crisp lines of his military dress, the medals shining softly under the fluorescent lights. Our son's eyes were wide with excitement. Josh had begged his dad to come to school that day. It was career day. And for once, his dad was here, fully present. I stood in the back, my heart swelling with pride. Seeing my husband like that, strong, steady, a hero to his little boy, felt like a gift. I thought this would be a moment we'd all remember with joy. But then, something happened, something I never expected. The teacher said something that made the whole room freeze. The words hung in the air, heavy and sharp, cutting deeper than I ever imagined possible. The smile on Josh's face faltered. The proud shine in my husband's eyes dimmed. And I felt a strange mix of emotions bubbling inside me, shame, anger, sadness, all tangled together. I never thought I'd feel shame and rage in the same breath, especially in my son's classroom. I thought that place was safe. I thought the people there would celebrate courage and sacrifice. But that day, in front of the whole class, everything changed. I won't tell you what was said just yet, because you need to understand the weight of that moment, how one cruel comment can ripple through a family, through a community, and through a child's heart. Stay with me. Because this story isn't just about a uniform or a classroom. It's about respect, love, and the fight to protect what matters most. My husband isn't just a man in uniform, he's so much more than that. He's a quiet hero, someone who doesn't talk much about what he does, but carries the weight of it every single day. He's a loving father who always makes time for Josh, even when work pulls him away for weeks or months. Josh is 9 years old. He's shy, the kind of kid who watches the world from the edges but never misses a chance to smile when he feels safe. And he's proud, so proud of his dad. To him, his dad is a real-life superhero. Our family has made a lot of sacrifices over the years. Deployments that keep us apart, missed birthdays, phone calls that end too soon. We've learned to lean on each other through it all. And despite the distance and the challenges, Josh's admiration for his dad only grows. For weeks before career day, Josh talked about nothing else. Daddy's going to come in his uniform, he told me excitedly, eyes sparkling. I want everyone to see how brave he is. It wasn't just about showing off. For Josh, it was about sharing a piece of our family's life, a life that many don't understand. He wanted his classmates to see the man who wakes up early, leaves for long trips, and comes back tired but always with a hug ready. His dad agreed to come. He took time off from work, put on his best uniform, and promised Josh he'd be there for this special day. I watched them prepare the night before. Josh laid out his clothes carefully, and my husband polished his boots until they shined like mirrors. There was a quiet excitement in our house, something rare and beautiful. This wasn't just another school day. It was a chance for Josh to feel proud, to celebrate his dad, and to share the story of a family that loves and sacrifices in ways most people never see. We didn't know that day would change everything. The morning of career day felt different. Josh woke up early, practically bouncing out of bed. His eyes were bright, his smile wide. Today's the day, he said over and over, like a little chant. I could see the excitement buzzing in the air. My husband had taken the day off just for this. He carefully put on his uniform, the one he wears when he wants to look his best. The fabric was stiff, the metals gleamed, and his boots were spotless. I watched Josh stare at him, like he was the most amazing thing he'd ever seen. We drove to school together, the car filled with quiet pride and nervous energy. Josh held his dad's hand tightly as we walked through the doors. I could feel the weight of the moment, the importance of this day to my son and to my husband. Inside, the classroom was buzzing with noise. Kids chattered excitedly, parents shuffled papers, and colorful posters lined the walls. Everyone was here to share their stories: firefighters, doctors, artists, even astronauts. The room was alive with dreams and hopes. Josh's eyes sparkled as his dad stood at the front. He was taller than most of the parents there, his uniform commanding attention without saying a word. Josh's chest puffed out with pride, as if the whole room belonged to his dad. My husband began to speak softly but clearly about his job, the discipline, the teamwork, the responsibility. He talked about protecting others, about serving his country, about the sacrifices our family made. The kids listened, some wide-eyed, others fidgeting but curious. For a moment everything felt perfect, like the world was exactly as it should be. I looked at Josh and saw him glowing with happiness. Then, without warning, the teacher interrupted. Her voice cut through the room like a cold wind. She didn't wait for my husband to finish or for the kids to ask questions. Instead, she said something sharp, something dismissive. The words echoed in the silence that followed. I remember thinking, did she really just say that? The room went still. Even the smallest noises seemed to stop. Josh's smile faded. He looked up at his dad, confused and hurt. My husband's steady face faltered for a split second, just long enough for me to see it. No one knew what to say. That moment changed everything in that classroom. The teacher's words hit the room like a thunderclap. "We're promoting violence now," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Is this what we want our kids to look up to? Guns and fighting." A cold silence fell. You could almost hear the air stop moving. Josh blinked, his little face twisting in confusion. He looked at his dad, searching for an answer that wasn't there. My heart dropped into my stomach, breaking in two. I wanted to stand up, to shout. But I was frozen, trapped by shock. The teacher didn't stop there. She went on, her tone sharp and biting. "Military isn't a real career, it's just an excuse to hurt people. We should be teaching our kids about peace, about kindness, not about war and uniforms." Some of the kids giggled, uncomfortable but unsure what else to do. Others looked down at their desks, eyes wide and unsure. Josh started to shrink in his seat, folding himself smaller, as if he could disappear entirely. I saw the pride drain from his eyes, replaced by something raw and painful. My husband stayed calm, but I saw his jaw clench tightly. He wanted to say something, anything, to defend not just himself, but the sacrifices behind that uniform. But in that moment, the teacher's words hung heavy in the room, as if trying to erase everything my family stood for. I could feel tears welling up, a mix of anger and heartbreak. How could someone who was supposed to teach our children say something so cruel, so unfair? This wasn't just a comment, it was a blow to Josh's spirit, to our family's dignity, and worse, it was public. In front of his classmates, people we trusted. That day, I realized that sometimes, the hardest battles happen not on distant fields, but right in front of us, in places where we expect safety. After the teacher's cruel words, I fought to keep calm. My hands trembled slightly, but I took a deep breath. I knew my husband needed my strength, so I focused on steadying myself. He cleared his throat and spoke quietly, but firmly. "I'm proud to serve. What I do protects families like mine, and yours. This uniform represents sacrifice, honor and commitment." His voice was steady, but I could see the hurt beneath. The teacher looked away, avoiding his gaze. Whispers spread across the room. Some parents nodded quietly in agreement, others exchanged uncomfortable glances. I could feel judgment hanging in the air. Some sided with the teacher, others with us, but no one spoke up. Josh sat frozen, his little body tense. When the presentations ended, he grabbed my hand tightly. "Can we go home now?" he whispered, his voice small and shaky. I knelt beside him and hugged him close. "It's okay, baby, you did nothing wrong." But I knew the pain was deep. Watching your child's pride crushed is one of the worst feelings a parent can have. That night, after Josh was asleep, my husband and I sat in the quiet of our living room. The house felt heavy, weighed down by the day's events. "Do you think we should say something to the school?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I don't want to make a big deal, but Josh deserves better. We can't let this slide." We talked late into the night, about respect, about what it means to serve, about protecting our family's dignity. I could see the pain in his eyes, but also the determination. We both knew that this wasn't just about one teacher's words. It was about standing up for what's right. The next morning, I made the call to the school office. I asked to speak with the principal. I explained what happened, trying to keep my voice steady. I told them how the teacher's comments had hurt our son, and how we wanted to make sure it never happened again. The receptionist promised the principal would get back to me. But as the hours passed, I wondered, would anything change, or would this just be another story lost in the noise? We waited and hoped. Because sometimes doing the right thing means stepping into the storm, even when you're scared. At first, I didn't hear much from the school. Days passed, and it felt like my complaint had vanished into thin air. When I called to follow up, the answers were vague. "We're looking into it," they said, but there was no real urgency. I was frustrated. I wanted them to understand how deeply the teacher's words had hurt Josh, and how important it was to take action. Then, out of nowhere, an email popped into my inbox. It was from the principal. The subject line simply said, "Meeting request." I felt a flicker of hope. The principal wanted to meet with my husband and me, to talk about what had happened. We went to the school the next day, nervous but ready. The principal greeted us warmly and didn't waste time. "I want to sincerely apologize," she said, looking us both in the eyes. "What happened in that classroom was unacceptable." She went on to explain that other parents had also reached out, concerned about the teacher's comments. It wasn't just our family who had been affected. Hearing that gave me a strange mix of relief and sadness. Relief that we weren't alone. Sadness that this kind of hurt had spread further than I thought. The principal told us the teacher was temporarily suspended, while the school reviewed the situation. The principal looked at us with genuine concern, her eyes softening as she spoke. "I want to sincerely apologize for what happened in that classroom. It was unacceptable, and I'm deeply sorry that your family had to experience that." Her words felt like a small balm on a fresh wound. She continued explaining that the school had received complaints from other parents as well, parents who had been troubled by the teacher's remarks and how they affected their children. It wasn't just our family who had been hurt by those words. Hearing this made the burden we carried feel a little lighter, knowing we weren't alone. She assured us that the teacher had been temporarily suspended, while the school conducted a thorough review of the situation. The school promised to take this very seriously, and to ensure that every student in the school felt respected, safe and valued, regardless of their background or family circumstances. I felt a small weight lift from my shoulders, a flicker of hope sparking inside me. For the first time since that painful day, I allowed myself to believe that maybe, just maybe, things could start to change. As we left the meeting, my husband reached for my hand and squeezed it gently. His voice was low, almost a whisper, but filled with quiet strength. "This is a start," he said. Those words stuck with me long after we walked out of the school building. Sometimes change begins in the smallest moments, in the decision to speak up, to refuse silence, and to demand respect even when it's uncomfortable or difficult. That day, I understood something important. Standing up for what's right often means facing hard truths, even when it shakes you to your core. The days following the teacher's suspension were a mix of emotions. We waited, unsure what to expect, hoping that the school would follow through on its promises. And then something beautiful began to happen. Josh, who had been so crushed and quiet after that incident, started receiving letters. They weren't from adults, but from his classmates. Little notes, some written in shaky handwriting, others carefully crafted with crayons and stickers. And there were letters from parents too, people we didn't even know. Each letter was filled with kindness, with apologies and with support. They thanked Josh for sharing his dad with the class, for showing them a side of service and sacrifice many hadn't thought about before. Some said, "You should be proud." Others wrote, "We're sorry he was treated unfairly." I watched as each letter was carefully opened and read. Slowly but surely, the smile began to return to Josh's face. The glow of confidence that had been dimmed was flickering back to life. One quiet afternoon, as we sat together in the living room, Josh looked up at me with those big, honest eyes, and said, "Mom, I'm proud of my dad again. And I want to tell everyone the truth about what he does." Hearing that made my heart swell, with a fierce kind of joy, because respect isn't something handed out lightly. It's earned through courage, protected with love, and shared with those who understand its true value. And now, I want to speak directly to you, whoever you are listening. Respect is more than just words on a page or polite gestures. It's about truly understanding the sacrifices made every day by those who wear uniforms, those who leave their families behind to keep us safe. It's about recognizing the quiet battles fought by men and women who don't seek praise or applause, but simply want to serve with honor. And it's about honoring those who stand behind them, parents, spouses, and children, who share the weight of those sacrifices in silence. My husband once said something to me that has never left my mind. "I didn't wear this uniform for praise. I wore it for freedom. Freedom to live, freedom to dream, freedom to be proud of who you are." That day in the classroom was one of the hardest days our family has faced. It challenged us in ways we never expected, but it also reminded us that pride doesn't come from others' approval. It comes from knowing your own worth, standing tall even when others try to knock you down. Josh's smile returned stronger than before. And to him, his dad's uniform will always be a superhero's cape, a symbol of bravery and love. As a family, we continue to stand tall, united by the unshakable belief that love and respect are worth fighting for. Because in the end, it's not just about a uniform or a job. It's about dignity, honor, and the courage to stand up for what you believe in, even when it's hard, even when the world doesn't always understand. Thank you for listening to our story. If you felt moved by this, please like, comment, and share this video. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that touch the heart and remind us what really matters. And tell me in the comments, what would you do if you were in that classroom?